If you find that person that wants to go deep with you
Yeah.
that way, like, go there. But here's the chicken.
Chicken delivery is here.
Let's put that back here. Yeah.
Good morning.
Yeah. Good footage. Thank you so much. The idea with Hart's was basically how to do it as simple as possible. Like I'd worked in a lot of different kinds of restaurants, big restaurants, small restaurants. Hart's was like, how pared down can we make a menu to the point that there will be something for everybody and that people will trust us?
What sort of informed Hart's? Like from an opening of the business standpoint or from a culinary standpoint? Like was there a previous job that you thought like, I want to go off on my own and try this because you had been cooking that type of food somewhere, or it just spoke to you?
My first restaurant was a French bistro in Chicago.
Okay.
And like I learned that was my culinary school. I didn't go to culinary school, but but that kind of was a really good, thoughtful, sweet crew that like taught me all the basics of cooking.
Yeah.
I remember coming home and walking around McCarran Park, and I was like, this is the place that I'm gonna work until we open our restaurant. Because it was something we talked about.
Yeah.
And I think it was just hyper seasonal and like aggressive menu changing. Like every day we changed the menu. It was exhausting. It was like fun and exhilarating, and also like exhausting. And at some point I kind of realized like you have to literally be eating here every day to experience the volume of change.
And people do eat there every day.
That informed like, I was like, I want to do this, but like a little more of like a gentle evolution.
You actually cannot consume any dairy products whatsoever.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, like, how does that inform your ideas about creating food?
For me, creatively, like working within limits. I've never understood like, how would you write a menu if you weren't doing it seasonally? Like the kind of bounty of options would kind of be too much for me, I guess. I think dairy operates a little bit in the same way. I also think that like, people do use dairy as a crutch.
Couldn't agree more.
I think that like butter makes a sauce velvety and tasty pretty quickly, but there's lots of other ways to do that.
You have more than one business. You have two business partners, and you now operate 3 restaurants. They're not all walkable to each other, so it's not the type of thing where you can just walk down the street and touch base with all of them in 10 minutes. Like some restaurant owners keep a very sort of small scope of geographical influence, but you've spread out a little bit. So how do you cover 3 restaurants? And also, can you speak a little bit about like, how do you hire for your restaurants? I think that's something that people that have one restaurant are really intrigued by. Like, how do you go from 1 to 2 and then from 2 to 3?
The first part of that is that happened gradually. That like, we actually started with a 28-seat restaurant, and each successive project has been like biting off a little bit more. Like the renovation with Hart's was like very cosmetic, didn't move around any plumbing or anything like that. When we took over Cervo's, we did do some more things. We added a little tile, we like moved around the kitchen a little bit, but like we really like, it was also still like, again, like working with limits. We had a very small budget, and we're trying to do it very quickly. Building out the fly was like we moved more walls around and like redid the kitchen, etc. Going from 1 to 2, I mean, at first I think that meant that like Niles and Leah and I were kind of spreading out a little bit, and like communication. Since we've grown, we've expanded that partnership also. Like Aaron Crowder is the chef partner of Cervo's. Gillian Graham is the chef partner of Hart's, and Taylor Ward has kind of grown into the director of operations of all 3.
When you opened Hart's, was there a hope or an expectation that it would be as well received as it was? You won a lot of awards there, it made a lot of lists. Were you hoping that would happen, or did that come as a total surprise to you?
All I was hoping for, and kind of still to this day though, am hoping for, is just like to keep the doors open. I want this to work. Like I want the food to come in, for us to make food, people to come, people to leave, close the doors, exist. I mean, that's still kind of how I view it.
Has it gotten easier over the years? Has it gotten harder?
as we grow, I think like give up a lot of control. Like, and that's where those partnerships like are so meaningful. You know, we kind of set the DNA of those places in motion, but like also Gigi at Hart's is like taking the menu in like new directions that it hasn't been and like evolving that. Like, it's growing.
Do you have a favorite?
Whichever one I'm working on a project at kind of becomes the favorite.
With 3 restaurants and with the ability to kind of pop around and have projects, like, do you feel fatigued by the business aspect of it ever, and by like owning multiple businesses, or no?
I don't. I think I generally wake up pretty excited every day. Like, I think that's just kind of my nature. Like, even before restaurants, like I kind of hate to go to bed and I love to wake up. And I do think that a very exciting thing is getting to move around between them and take on projects. With kind of the original partnership of Niles and Leah and I, we still do this of like divvying up projects of like, if somebody's like, I have the idea for this, I'm gonna take that to the hall, and then we're like, okay, cool, you got this. We operate very like project-based like that.
What is like a kitchen phrase that you love, and what is one that you hate?
We had one night, we expedited a pop-up with my son Julian, and he was in my arms, and we've taught him like hot, hot, hot. And like after him like seeing the chicken coming out, and he was like hot, hot, hot. Like, so now like the guys at the Fly, like instead of like behind, it's like hot, hot, hot. You know,
they're like copying your
like
little kid. Yeah.
We don't call people chef here. I think that was something that always
use their name.
Just names, or like
how revolutionary of a concept. You just refer to people by their name.
Yeah,
Who
just like if somebody's saying that, it's in jest.
Yeah.
That's like across all of them.
Just like self-referential mocking of how seriously we take ourselves. Yeah. Do you take yourself very seriously when you're at work?
I think I'm much more lighthearted. I mean, at this point, like I also like, I'm like the guy trying to keep the lights on. Kind of how I look at it. Like, because also like at this point, you know, like Niles and I are like the maintenance team of the 3 restaurants.
That's great. When you reach the point, you're so high on the hierarchy that now you get to fix the grease trap when it breaks. You've really reached the apex of the food chain in the restaurant. Yeah.
Yeah, I replaced the toilet flappers. You know, like.
What is your favorite part of your job and your relationship to the restaurants?
The favorite thing is just the variation, and like within that, like working with like all the different people. At this point, I think there's like across the 3, there's 70 employees. That is like an incredible amount of creative energy. You know, back to like projects of like somebody bringing something that they're like, oh, I used to do this. I think that's now like the most exciting thing.
Favorite ingredient that you're working with right now that is not a tin fish?
I mean, kind of like olive oil is always it.
When you walk through your walk-ins at one of your restaurants, is there like a go-to thing that you always like snag? Like, what's your snack?
Vegetables. Like at the Fly, it's actually like we take the chickens from the night before, and I mean, the number one snack for me is stealing the wings.
Little chicken bite?
Stealing the wings off of them, just being like, oh, there's 4 little chickens. I'll take the wings off of them.
What do you do when you're not at your restaurant? And I'm not talking about being at home with your partner, talking about the restaurants.
No, we actually try.
Non-restaurant related, what do you do?
Because we on the restaurant together, we like, we try not to, we really try not to talk about work as much as possible. I have a 1-year-old, so that really kind of keeps me going. That's that. Yeah.
That's it.
That's it. I feel like I work and I hang with Julie.